Alright, maybe this will work this time. Let's see. I don't know. I'm frustrated. Okay, so, um, basically what's going on, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've been having issues, just adjusting. Okay, I'm live. Hell yeah. Hello everyone and welcome back. It's your host Michelle, aka Chat-Mort, and thank you so much for returning once again to my humble little channel. I've been going through some frustrating issues trying to adjust because, I had my machine updated meaning upgraded, in fact, and, I'm just trying to adjust because, like, my old OBS profile is on a different, hard drive than the one I'm using now. So I'm kind of like, I'm torn between figuring out which things I want to just like transfer over and which things I want to use as an opportunity to like do completely anew. So anyway, I'm struggling with OBS, but I think I've got everything taken care of now. Hello, for anyone watching later. And let me see, I'm gonna tweet out that I'm streaming. As you can see, I'm going by the tried and true formulaic thing that I'm doing, that I have been doing, which is just taking silly quizzes while chatting with you guys. Can you hear me all right? Hello. Welcome. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay, of course. My audio has been kind of sketchy at times in the past just because there's something wrong with my snowball internally. But I think everything's okay. Welcome, Zeus Flippy. That's a good name. I like that. And remember, of course, to switch to live chat from top chat, because this is not Sesame Street. We are not children. Everyone here will be okay if there are some spooky words or some edgy memes. So if you want to get the full experience, please do so. Let me see. I think the best way to do this is to just... Hold on. I will share this via Twitter. And I would do Facebook too, but I'm kind of spooked about Facebook. I think a lot of people don't like me. Like my family doesn't like that I do political, conservative type political commentary. My friends tend to be all really supportive, ironically, like that my friends who are all like in their early to mid 20s are super cool with me having different political views from them. But my family isn't, and some of them like hate me for being a conservative, but yeah, I'll just share it on Twitter for now. What else has been going on? Yeah, I mentioned I've been adjusting a little bit to my upgraded machine. I actually think I'm going to be doing some gaming too. I'm going to be doing that on a new channel that I will create. And it's one of those things where I don't like when people have multiple channels for like, for gaming, for like vlogging, for political commentary or whatever. I prefer when everything is in one place. And I prefer doing everything in one place for my channel because it feels good to be able to just like look at, just like one channel and see my full body of work. But I understand that that is off-putting to people. For one, obviously, people who are more interested in, like, the political commentary stuff I do here, if you don't care about gaming at all, if you are, like, a conservative or a moderate or just whatever political affiliation you may have in, like, your 40s or 50s, as some of my viewers are, you're not going to care about the gaming. And more importantly, and probably a little bit more profoundly, people who might enjoy gaming content might be super turned off by the fact that I am sort of conservative politically and would not tolerate that, you know? So for that reason, I am going to be starting a gaming channel as well, because I now have enough RAM, and I'm just upgraded enough that I can actually stream and record while gaming. So that's super fun. I might stream some gaming on Twitch, but I will be recording it and uploading it all to YouTube as well because I like having everything in a central location. I know that's not smart. I know I need to like diversify. I need to be using like BitChute as well. Maybe even Vimeo or something, however much you pay like a year to have a membership to that. I should be putting my content in a couple different places since YouTube is really unreliable and they tend to seem to target people who are too political for their tastes. Anyway, I will let you guys know when that comes up, but for now I'm just going to do a little very run-of-the-mill for me thing where I'm just going to do a couple interesting quizzes. I really like Pew Research quizzes. They're all very unique, and they all seem to be a little bit more like grounded in fact than, you know, like BuzzFeed quizzes, for example, or like what even are some of the other quiz things like Quizlet, or I'm trying to think like where I've taken some quizzes in the past. Allthetests.com used to be a fun one, but I don't think are they even around anymore? I also wanted to show you guys, I'm wearing my ring, my beautiful ring. Is it, can you see? Cool, it focused, you can see. I'm actually wearing my matching necklace because the thing is, I've always wanted, oh my god, you can't see him. Can you see him a little bit? I always wanted Kisame's Akatsuki ring, always, but the only place I've ever been able to find it online is just this like sketchy Chinese seller who you can get it from through eBay, and it's like $3, and I'm like, that ring is gonna look like crap. So for like 10 years now, I've wanted this ring, and I just haven't gotten it because I didn't think it was worth the risk, especially when I was a little younger, you know, and I had my first job. I'm not gonna spend the minuscule amount of money I have on a cosplay ring that might look terrible. Anyway, I just thought I would take the risk and try it, and it's gorgeous. It actually came much faster than I thought it would. It's beautiful. I love it. Obviously, it should be worn on the left ring finger, but unfortunately, I'm promised to another other than Kisame, so I'm not going to take my engagement ring off to wear a cosplay ring. But wearing that and having it made me remember that I needed to dig out my Kisame necklace and wear him too. So I have matching accessories for once. I'm being a good female for once. I actually got this. I got this necklace from like Etsy, actually, I think. And they just like take Naruto trading cards and they make them into necklaces, which kind of freaks me out because as someone who used to be like a total trading card fanatic, the idea of butchering a card even to make like pretty jewelry freaks me out. But, you know, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And I think I actually bought another necklace from the same seller that's like this square necklace with like a black ribbon, and it's a Meowth trading card, and it's so cute, and I have not worn it once. I love it, but I don't know like what to wear it with because it's a little over the top to wear like to work or to run errands. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you, Zeus. Please let me know, of course, if there are any issues, if I'm dropping too many frames or you can't hear me, but I just thought I'd do a couple of these here for the time being. I don't know. At first I was thinking about just doing political quizzes, and we can do some. I'm not sure which one to do. Let's do the political party quiz. Let's do the political typology quiz as well. And these are both from a couple years back, so they may be somewhat outdated, but just based on the fact that it's this, you know, these people who made the quiz, I don't think it'll be that big a deal. Did this thing tweet out properly? Probably. I'm still like, I'm trying to get accustomed to OBS now. Like, was I using OBS Studio before and not OBS? Is that the difference between the kinds of software? I don't even know. How sad is that? But it seemed like it was easier to crop things before, and now that I re-downloaded it and put it on this hard drive, it's different. It's like, it's harder to use, it seems. Anyway, all right, let's see. Yeah, let's do the political party quiz and see what happens. I think you guys probably know which side I'm going to fall on, but I'm actually pretty moderate on a lot of issues. It's one of those things where obviously as like culturally it becomes less and less acceptable to be on the right or in the middle, and it becomes more acceptable to be on the extreme far left. Everybody who's moderate or even pretty likberal is, you know, we're all being pigeonholed as like racists and like right-wing extremists now. So, you know, if things weren't like as extreme and progressive ideologies hadn't like infected our culture so much, I might actually be considered pretty liberal, but just the way the political landscape has changed, I don't think so. But let's see what happens. Yes, political party quiz. Answer these 11 questions that were part of a national survey conducted by the Pew Research Center to find out where you fit on the partisan political spectrum and see how you compare with other Americans by age, race, religion, and gender. That's cool. I like that. I like the demographic aspect because you can't get that from like a Quizlet quiz or something like that. Okay, can you guys see everything okay? Good, yeah. I tried to crop this properly and I didn't know if it would or not, but it looks good on my end at least. Which statement comes closer to your own views, even if neither is exactly right? Business corporations make too much profit, or most corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit. Already I'm like, well, one moment, please. Let me know if I'm dropping too many frames because OBS it's looking spooky. But maybe we'll be okay. I'm not sure yet. The thing is, obviously, corporations have been demonized a lot in our culture, and a lot of the time corporations have far too much sway in our political system as far as legislation, and just culturally people like rail against corporations, but they're also very, very oblivious to the fact that corporations influence most of our ideology, you know, and almost all of our culture is dictated just by corporations, you know. So people are not like super vigilant personally, but then they'll like lash out at corporations like, how dare you, I don't know, not pay enough taxes, or how dare you employ everybody and help the economy. I don't know. You can already tell what my result is probably going to be on this quiz. My thinking is, I think that corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit. I do. Obviously, culturally, it's not acceptable to think that the people who make the most risks, those being like the CEO or the COO or those people up top, you know, earn their money and deserve the massive amounts of money they get. That's not acceptable to think. But I don't think there's inherently anything immoral about earning money as a corporation. I don't. Obviously, if there are shady practices going on, if they are not, you know, abiding by basic rights and our laws here about how you need to humanely and fairly treat your workers, that's not okay. But there's nothing inherently wrong with making a huge amount of profit, honestly. And if we don't like that, the answer is not just to complain about it. The answer is also to actually go out of your way to cut those things out of your life, you know, as well as to share with other people why you think that's important and that you do think that's important. So, next. All right, which statement, okay, yeah, comes closer to your own views. I appreciate that they're saying that, because that's one of the things, if you watch some of my older quizzes, I can go on for like 15 minutes struggling because I may be a little bit closer to one answer than the other, but neither of them are exactly right. So I appreciate that they like give this disclaimer, which comes closer to your own views, even if neither is exactly right. Problems in the world would be even worse without U.S. involvement, or U.S. efforts to solve problems around the world usually end up making things worse. This is hard. See, the Vietnam War. I think most of the time U.S. involvement does help, like particularly when it comes to the horrific things that happened in Haiti the last couple years, when it comes to trying to help people in poverty in other countries, when it comes to providing military aid to our allies. Obviously, it's not entirely correct, but I definitely lean towards saying problems would be even worse without U.S. involvement. At times, I do like understand and agree with the isolationist ideology, but that's going to hurt a lot of people. If we just pull out from helping in a lot of places, it's going to hurt. Granted, I don't think that the way we're managing things is great. It's not great to like go in and you know, decide to like insert ourselves into the business of Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, completely overthrow the people in power there, and then just pull out because we want to pander to certain, you know, like political allies, and then leave a vacuum and then leave everything in disarray. Things like that are not smart. But I think that obviously a lot of those situations are going to be worse without our involvement. Do you think it is the responsibility of the federal government to make sure all Americans have health care coverage? No, absolutely not. Health care is not a right. Everyone should have health care, and the vast majority of people need health care, but everything the government sinks its fangs into falls apart. Everything that the government pretends to want to do to help everyone is just a way for the government to get more of our money. And there's no way for us, the citizens, to hold such a bloated, massive government accountable when a bunch of that money is not returned or put, toward the efforts that they take it away from you under the guise of. No, absolutely not. That's not how to get everybody health care. That's not the way to do it fairly. That's not the way to help everybody. Sorry. Do you strongly favor... Oh, I was like, do you strongly favor... Do you strongly favor... oppose or strongly oppose allowing gays and lesbians to marry legally? This is one of those things where I can get out of it with my non-answer typically of saying it's none of the government's business who gets married anyway. The government should not have to make it legal for people to get married, It's ridiculous. Sorry. But I would say favor, and yes, the definition of marriage is initially more of a religious one, or it was co-opted by religion long before it was something that the government decided to stick their nose into. The definition of marriage is between a man and a woman. However, the government should not be siding with any one religion or implementing any one religion, So I think from a legal standpoint, it should be fine, obviously. I try not to do identity politics type things here because I don't think it's exceedingly relevant to my opinions. No goat thrapple scribe. How dare you? But obviously bisexual people on average are going to end up in heterosexual relationships more than homosexual relationships because there are a lot more straight people than there are gay or bisexual people. However, it's always been in my ideology. I've been raised, and I then adopted the viewpoint myself that you should commit to and marry the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and be in an ongoing intimate relationship with. So had I ended up with a woman, I probably would want to have at least the legal equivalent of a marriage, even though it's just on paper. I think that commitment can be helpful. So I'll say wait, no. What? Do you favor... oppose? Do you favor... Okay, there's too many words. It hurts my little brain. I favor allowing gays and lesbians to marry legally. Let's go with that. Which statements comes closer to your views, even if neither is exactly right. Government is doing too many things that would be better left to businesses and individuals, or government should do more to solve problems. Hell no. Every time the government tries to solve a problem, things get worse. That's the thing that progressives and most of my peers my age do not understand. Every time the government says they're going to help with something, and they never intend to actually help, I can promise you that, they make it infinitely worse. Every time. They need to let things be fixed in the private sector, because even if some aspects of capitalism are immoral, the fact is that competition in the free market gets things done a hell of a lot more efficiently and effectively than the government ever will. Because what's the government's competition? The government is the highest authority. It shouldn't be, but it is. I don't know what my problem is. I can't really afford it. Failing at bottle closing ASMR. You're welcome, everyone. I keep buying this Voss water. It's really pretentious, Norwegian artisan water, supposedly. But I like the cylindrical shape. I like cylinders, okay? I just like it because it's to handle undocumented immigrants who are now living in the U.S. I think that's an excellent opportunity to test out catapults. A variety of catapults of varying power. Sorry, should not be allowed to stay here legally. Yeah, it sucks for a lot of those people. Yeah, those people come here out of desperation many times. But that doesn't change the fact that when you pour hundreds of thousands of people into an economy, into an environment where people are being hired and fired and, you know, buying certain goods and services, that throws everything out of whack. Not to mention the fact that obviously a lot of people who are willing to break a very important law, the very first one that becomes relevant to them, that being immigration law, that doesn't set a good precedent for them being willing to follow the rest of our laws. And obviously there's not as much legal recourse against someone who's undocumented, who's technically not here, you know? So, should not be allowed to stay here legally. I'm sorry. I know that sucks for a lot of people, but if our country falls apart, if we do not have even the most minimal basic immigration laws, if our country falls apart, if our country is in tatters, like it is rapidly becoming, how are we supposed to help immigrants? How are we supposed to help anybody else if we allow our country to disintegrate? Which statement comes closer? Okay, blah, 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 blah. This country has gone too far in its efforts to protect the environment, or this country should do whatever it takes to protect the environment. Okay. I think protecting the environment is crucial. The one thing that environmentalists tend to overlook is the fact that America is the most environmentally friendly country in existence. As far as actual, like, industrialized countries, we are the least destructive to the planet. Sure, we can be doing more, and I think it's important to educate people on prioritizing using renewable resources and recycling and things like that. But we're already doing a really good job, and using environmentalism as an excuse to take away even more of our freedoms is not acceptable. So yeah, this country's gone too far in its efforts to protect the environment. I don't agree with that, but I agree with that far more than this country should do whatever it takes to protect the environment. Doing whatever it takes is not a good idea when it comes to a country, because that means via legislation. At least my interpretation of it. My kittens are playing with this, like, it's like a baby, like, balls and like fuzzy mice and things. So if you hear a bunch of jingle bells and crashing and scrabbling around in the background, I'm so sorry. It's my children. Okay, do you think abortion should be legal in all cases, legal in most cases, illegal in most cases, or illegal in all cases? I think illegal in most cases. I think it's absurd that your right to life, which is supposed to be one of our God-given rights, that is one of the, you know, main foundations of our country, can be taken away from you in as arbitrary a way as whether or not you've come out of the coochie or not. Like, that's absurd, to put it frankly. Obviously, if you need an abortion to save your life, that's something that should absolutely be legal. You made it. Now we can begin. Hi, Anon. I'm sorry we began a little bit, but you haven't missed a whole lot because of how long-winded I am. I'm just doing, let's see. Is it a bit self-explanatory considering the title of the stream? Yes. I'm doing Pew Research quizzes, exclamation point. I think that there's definitely room for debate when it comes to abortions in the case of rape or incest. However, I also think that it's kind of awful to be like, well, your father was a rapist, so we're going to dismember you and suck you out with a vacuum cleaner and leave your little twitching parts in a trash can. Like, I can't relate. Not really. But, you know, I think that obviously there's room for a lot of moral debate there, and I've got a lot to learn in regard to those cases, because I've never spoken to someone and I don't know much about those cases where the, you know, impregnation of the woman, is that the word? Impregnating? Huh. I don't know. Where that is, it's traumatic, you know. Obviously, it's going to be horrifically traumatizing for that woman to go through with the pregnancy in most cases. And some people, even who do not become pregnant through some horrific trauma or violation of their bodily integrity or rights, end up with horrible postpartum depression and things like that. So you can't guarantee, even though it's a nice sentiment, that like having the baby is going to magically turn the woman's life around. I think if I had something horribly traumatizing like that happen, I would try to see it in that way. I would try to look at it as, this is a absolutely hellish thing that happened to me, and it's going to alter my life and my ability to function forever. But having this incredible little human being come out of this beautiful, innocent, perfect, miraculous little thing, that's an opportunity to take this hellish thing and have the most beautiful thing in the world come out of it, which is life. So, cool. Illegal in most cases, that's my thought. Because the vast majority of abortions are just because women decide that that's their form of birth control, as opposed to, you know, taking personal responsibility instead of punishing an infant by having them mutilated due to their inability to think ahead, you know, and be responsible and actually do things that, you know, are going to result in the consequences that are beneficial or preferable to them. Question 9. Which of the following comes closer to blah, 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 your view about the federal government's efforts to prevent terrorism? Muslims living in the U.S. should be subject to more scrutiny than people in other religious groups. I don't like that. Muslims living in the U.S. should not be subject to additional scrutiny solely because of their religion. Absolutely not. Religious discrimination is not okay. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion to be had about the basic tenets of Islam and how much they contradict our own views societally, as far as women's rights, as far as freedom of speech, as far as freedom of religion and the freedom to criticize other religions besides whatever one is your personal one that you affiliate with. But that doesn't make it okay that just because you adhere to a specific religion or identify as a follower of it, that you should automatically be put under more scrutiny. Like, I get why some conservatives feel that way, but that's immoral, you know? I definitely, I gravitate toward this sentiment more than that one, you know? Yeah, Anon said, scrutiny from the government? Definitely not. Oh my god, my cats are... They're being cats. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Having an increasing number of people of different races, ethnic groups, and nationalities in the U.S. makes this country a better place to live, a worse place to live. It doesn't make much difference either way. Having an increasing number of people of different races, ethnic groups, and nationalities makes this country... That's the thing. It makes me seem very leftist. It makes me seem like a social justice type person, but I think diversity is inherently a good thing. I think just like where I grew up was this, I hated the place, and it may be coincidental, but it was this very, very tiny, close-knit little, like all-white German town where everybody knew everybody else. And the last apartment I lived in was in a city, and there were people of all ethnicities there. And I know that that's a very superficial form of diversity, but even that, just the ethnic and racial diversity, I felt like that was rewarding. I just think it's wonderful to be around a variety of different people as opposed to everybody looking and acting and sounding like you. You know, I think there's obviously a lot to be learned from other cultures and more cultures than ethnicities. I was going to say ethnicities, but no, not ethnicities, really. And I think there is inherent value, honestly, to being reminded that not everybody looks like you and is exactly like you. I think it makes you... I just think it humbles you a little bit, and it makes you more aware of how unique you are and how vastly different other people's experiences are from yours, even if it's just in their appearance and their skin color, you know. And a lot of the time, race or ethnicity does correspond with different cultures. But the thing is, objectively, a variety of races does not make a country a better place. A variety of cultures, yes. But then the thing that is so important here is an increasing number of people. Because people have to assimilate. Obviously, it's not good for somebody to completely forsake or forget or, I don't know, like, disown their culture just to fit in. But in order for you to flourish, in order for you to be a productive member of society, in order for you not to be limited by cultural barriers, when you come to America, to an extent, you have to assimilate. You have to be able to speak English. You have to understand some very, very basic like cultural phenomena and figures of speech. You have to understand some of that, or you're going to suffer and you're going to end up in like a little ethnic ghetto. And that's not fair to anybody. No one should have to be limited to that. You know, everybody should be able to flourish based on their character and their talents and their willingness to work. And unfortunately, I think our culture, by trying to demonize any one culture or Americanized culture overall, it's putting people into these little groups and telling them that the moral or safe thing to do is to stay in them, as opposed to assimilating or exposing ourselves to other cultures. That was a lot of rambling to say. To say what exactly, Michelle? What? Where are you going with this? What are you getting at? Having an increasing number of people of different races, ethnic groups, and nationalities makes this country, I'm going to say, doesn't make much difference either way. I think where it becomes harmful is when people refuse to assimilate, or when they reject, like, American culture altogether. That's when it is harmful to the people already here, but more importantly, it's extremely harmful to the people who come here of other nationalities and ethnic groups. Next. Oh, I have cat hair all over my face and it's so itchy. You guys can't see it, but I've had this glitter since like my freshman year of high school. It's just this little like container, this little pot of like loose glitter. And I took some of it. I found this. I dug it out. I don't know where it was even like from or where I've been keeping it, but I like patted it on my eyes and you can't really see it in this low light. But there's like glitter. It just like cascaded down my face. Like I look like Edward Cullen. You can't really see it, but like there's like little square pieces of glitter like embedded in my pores, and it's agony. Okay. Question 11 of 11. Which statement comes closer to your views, even if neither is exactly right? The economic system in this country is generally fair to most Americans, or the economic system in this country unfairly favors powerful interests? That's a hard one. Do I have to agree to data usage? Whatever. That could even be an ad. I don't know that even counts here. I'm going to leave that unchecked until later. The economic system in this country is generally fair to most Americans. I would say there was a time during which it probably was, but I don't know that it is anymore. I'm not sure. The economic system in this country unfairly favors powerful interests. I don't know. Well, if you're talking about the economic system itself, if you're talking about like our specific like this iteration of capitalism, I'm going to say it's generally fair. People who refuse to work, for the most part, save for the couple like high-profile Jenners and, you know, Instagram celebrities and people like that, most of the people who refuse to work don't make much money. Most of the people who work incredibly hard are rewarded for it, you know? So slightly leaning toward it being generally fair, as opposed to it unfairly favoring powerful interests. Whoa. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to check it. Okay, just checking. Let's see. Conservative Republican. Well, there you go. Now, did it take my demographic information? Because I didn't give it to them. Yeah, compare yourself to other demographic groups by, okay, so it's not taking mine and adding it in. It's just they're comparing you against the people who they already did like a survey with before. Oh my God, look at me. I'm way over there. That shocks me because I thought a lot of my views were very much like middle of the road. Interesting. I'm like, bloop, like way over there. Wow. That's insane. That really surprises me because I feel like I would be Republican leaning independent. Age. Let me see. So as you can see, as you grow up and accumulate more knowledge, you tend to become more right. wing. We all knew that. Shock horror. Here, I thought you were a loyal authoritarian socialist. God, I can't speak. I know. Shock and awe abounds. Gender. See, I hate that. I hate that women are more left-leaning than men. And obviously, everybody thinks their political affiliation is right. But as someone who obviously thinks that conservatism is more grounded in reality and historical relevance and fact and statistical accuracies, I don't know where I'm going with this. As somebody who thinks conservatism is factually and morally correct, it drives me insane that most women are more left-leaning, because to me that reinforces the idea that women are driven by emotions more than logic, and that enrages me because I want to hold women to a higher standard than that. I see women and men as equals. I at least think that women and men need to be treated as equals and be held equally responsible for their decisions and their actions. So yeah, it irks me to see that women tend to be more left-leaning than men. I don't like it. But as you can see, I make most men look like Bernie Sanders. So, okay. That's interesting. It's interesting to me that black people are further left than Hispanics. Wait, why is it? Does it think I'm black? It does. Or no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's just, it has different ones staggered different ways so you can read them, I believe. Right? Is that why it's doing that? Weird. I mean, it seems like, I would guess that several years back, Hispanic people would be as far to the left as black people would be, because immigration used to be far more of a hot button issue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. I hate when people say button or button. A hot button issue. But the way things are now, there's this absolutely repugnant, just completely morally depraved culture war going on now, where the people in the media, politicians, everybody in pop culture and in Hollywood is trying to tell black people, you are victims, you are in danger, you are not safe leaving your house, and white people hate you and want to kill you. Just makes me sick that people are that evil, that they want racism to flourish and they want people to be afraid of one another. Absolutely freaking repulsive. Everybody knows that's how I feel, though. So yeah, because the left and the mainstream media has succeeded at ruining race relations and making it so the 80s and the early 90s are as good as white and black race relations are ever going to be in the history of the US. Black people are further left than Hispanics because they are the ones who are most being victimized and targeted by this divisive fear-mongering rhetoric. I'm angry now. Good. Okay. I'm angry. So let's see. Yeah. A black Protestant, Hispanic Catholic, white mainline Protestant versus white Catholics are more right-leaning, and white evangelicals, you. See, that's bizarre to me. I don't understand how it put me there. Like, everybody else's answers must be, like, crazy far left, because I genuinely felt like mine were very moderate here. That's really odd to me. Are you from US? Yes, I am American. I am indeed. I am shocked that it puts me that far right. Like, honestly, I feel like I'm around the average score. I'm blown away by this. Okay, whatever. I would like to see their reasoning as to how they scored this quiz, but I do not know. Okay, I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm going to do the political typology quiz. Actually, she's Puerto Rican. Yeah, you look at my skin. My skin is like, if I go outside in shorts, I need sunglasses or my legs blind me. I am far from Puerto Rican. I'm the whitest white girl you will ever see. I'm like translucent. I'm like, did you guys ever watch Fringe? Like the first episode of Fringe, there were these people whose like their skin was like turning clear. I don't know if it was like dissolving, but I look like one of those people, like the longer you look at me, you see more and more veins deeper and deeper in my skin until you can basically see my organs. It's grotesque. I'm very, very white. Okay. Don't trust the test. You don't think so? I don't know. I think it's interesting. I'm really thrown off by the fact that they put me that far conservative. Like it just feels like they have to have taken data from, like what news sites I liked on Facebook or something to put me that far right. I don't understand that at all. Unless I'm reading it wrong, which is possible. I'll check back later, because like I always rewatch my streams, because when you're streaming, you are putting so much of your effort into following every sentence through coherently, being entertaining, focusing a good amount on like the topic you want to cover, what people in the chat are saying, the like whatever's on screen, whoever else you may be talking with, like as a co-host, that it's so easy to, like, you don't remember what you said 5 minutes ago. So if you see something in chat, like if somebody just types at a normal speed, by the time it pops up in chat, you're so far onto the next subject that you don't know what they're talking about and you can't remember. Excuse me. Or you don't get jokes that people are making about what you're saying because your mind is so occupied by just streaming, by the entertaining aspect of it. So when I come back later, if I rewatch this, I might see that I like read a lot of these results wrong, and I just want to tear my hair out when I do that, because I totally understand like a viewer's frustration. And then, you know, now that I stream, I understand how things that are so, I would think that are so hard to misinterpret, why they're misinterpreted so much by people streaming. Maybe the test was developed by left-oriented people to make people feel like they're right or something. That could be. I don't know. I've always kind of perceived like the Pew Research people as fairly moderate, although most research organizations are pretty left, because to be able to like do any research with any adequate funding, you have to be funded by the government, so you have to kind of espouse what they want you to. You know, unfortunately, a lot of research and a lot of what goes on in the American Psychological Association and stuff is basically the government is giving you millions and millions of dollars to put out research that says what the current administration would benefit from, like, being the leading research. It's gross and unacceptable, but that's how it is, you know. So next I'm going to do the political typology quiz. Actually, let's see. It'll be interesting to see how closely this, the result I get from this one corresponds to the other one. And it is really cool that these quizzes are so brief, actually, because it doesn't take ages to get through them. For me, it does, because you know how much I talk. But, you know, compared to a lot of other quizzes, it's something that you can just, like, sit down and get done in a reasonable amount of time. It's 9:41 p.m. and I'm drinking vanilla Coke because I hate myself. Oh, it's so fizzy. Oh God. Okay. So sorry. I'm very ladylike and classy, in case you were not sure. I'm practically. Okay. I'm just gonna stop talking before I hurt myself. Doesn't really matter to the average Joe on the street. You're either a Nazi or a commie these days. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. And it's sad that people are so, like, they're so willing to forfeit, like, rational thought and being respectful of other people's views just to justify their own anger and bigotry. You know, it's sad that people have reverted to this so quickly. Also, centrists are derided as the graveyard of political ideas. I know, I've been seeing a lot of, like, conservatives recently who I follow, like, posting these centrist memes about, you know, just, like, all centrists being these cowards and these morons and people who just don't want to offend anybody. And it's just really unfortunate that people are buying into this idea of, if you don't pick a side, you're a coward. It's so sad. It's really, really unfortunate, but that's human nature. And, you know, it's frustrating to me to see people on the side that I think is correct doing that same thing. But for a lot of people, it's just like whichever side you happen to fall on. A lot of it is just incidental. It has to do with like the media you consume, your parents, maybe whatever your parents are, you might rebel and do the opposite. A lot of people do that. I've got a lot of conservative friends who have super leftist parents. One of my really good friends, actually, his family like disowned him because he's conservative, and he found religion. His family was like totally like atheist. So it's, you know, a lot of things, and I'm not saying that he's that way, like he's just rebelling. He's a very, very intelligent man. But you know, a lot of it is just happenstance. So it's not shocking really to see how people just like on either side of the aisle fall for the same like tribalistic, very divisive sort of tactics. Can you play some music? Is that a single star Dragon Ball? Well, I have a kazoo somewhere. I could try to play Megalovania on my kazoo, but I think my fiance hid the kazoo. He was sick of it before I even played it. I would play Megalovania on my kazoo. Maybe later. How do you know what's okay to request in live YouTube? You mean like what's gonna make people freak out and like block you from their chat? That's a good question. Like, you could be totally trolling me, but I'm just gonna talk to you straight like a normal person, because people think I'm weird all the time when I'm trying to be just normal. I don't know what's weird. Like, when you show up and people don't recognize you, especially on a little channel like this one, like, if people don't know you, if the streamer or like the mods of the chat don't know you, they have no idea if you're being sarcastic, if you're being like a total jerk. They might think that you're like alluding to something really inappropriate or whatever. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm dumb. Oh my god. No, what's okay to play in the background? That? I have no idea. I'm scared to play anything. You just can't play anything anymore. Like, maybe you could download some of like YouTube's like Creator Studio royalty-free music and play it. But other than that, I don't know. You know, some people get away with playing like weird like trap or dubstep remixes of things. Just because like those things don't get like identified immediately by the like ID system or whatever. I don't know. I was so ready to play Megalovania on the kazoo, man. I totally misinterpreted what you were saying there. The second, third gen Middle Eastern youth that settle in the UK are super right-wing, and the liberals are in shock that the people they use as victim bait don't want to hear about LGBTQ stuff. Yeah. I bet Grimes wouldn't get mad. Grimes is interesting. I bet she wouldn't. People like, a lot of people would be okay with you playing their music, but if a big music label is like who they're signed with, it's the music labels who like want your money and will happily copyright claim your video and take your money for playing a song. You know, a lot of the artists themselves probably wouldn't care, but they don't have much of a say a lot of the time. I don't know. Actually, in a lot of my movies, I play, like, my favorite artist is this Estonian woman whose name is Curly, and a lot of her songs got leaked, or her music style evolved so quickly that, like, she would make a bunch of songs and then she'd move on to a new style and never release those songs. So like she would leak them herself, you know, just for free, because she was never going to actually like put them on an album and sell them. Oh, she is independent? Then maybe it would be okay. I'm not sure. But like I use a lot of one singer songs because a lot of them were never like released through a label, you know, they were just leaked or just put out by her. So you can get away with that stuff sometimes. It just depends. I don't know. I have never played music like during my stream before. I'm not sure how it would work. I'd have to like test it out sometime, but I could try. 1 star Dragon Ball. Is that what you are? You are, right? Yeah, let's try this. Are you a core conservative, a solid liberal, or somewhere in between? Take our quiz to find out which one of our political typology groups is your best match compared with a nationally representative survey of more than 5,000 U.S. adults by Pew Research Center. My boobie is itchy, help me. You may find some of these questions are difficult to answer. For example, you may partly agree with both statements or feel that neither quite describes your view. That's okay. In those cases, Pick the answer that comes closest to your view, even if it isn't exactly right. Okay. All right. Nin doesn't care either. Yeah. I'll have to see. I've never done that before, but that's a good suggestion. I think a lot of people would appreciate that if I played some like very like chill background music that's not super loud or invasive. I'll have to practice though sometime. I'll have to test it to see how that works though. All right. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? The government should do more to help needy Americans, even if it means going deeper into debt. Are you shitting me? No. The government today can't afford to do much more to help the needy. Absolutely not. The government does not give a shit about the needy. They do not. They're the government. As much as legislating everybody into like helping the poor sounds like it's going to work, it's not. Private organizations do a hell of a lot more to help the poor than the government does. That's just how it works. Mongolian throat whistling in the background. That wouldn't be disturbing at all. I'm not going to do it today just because I get really stressed out by like testing things in OBS without knowing if they're going to work or not. I'm probably not going to try it right now, but I will in the future. Yeah, the government can't do much more to help. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Government is almost always wasteful and inefficient. Yeah. Government often does a better job than people give it credit for. No. Are you kidding me? The government is it's disastrous. The government is inherently immoral, you know? It's a necessary evil, but the less power the government has over our day-to-day lives and over how we are allowed to help each other, the better. Which of the following comes closest to your view? The best way to ensure peace is through military strength, or good diplomacy is the best way to ensure peace. What is the quote? I don't know it word for word. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Unfortunately, the more countries that are formidable because of how powerful they are and how well they would retaliate if you crossed them, the better. Just diplomacy doesn't tend to really help. I have to Google this and see what it is. Is it the Treaty of Versailles? Is that the example I'm thinking of? The Treaty of Versailles. Let me see. The most important peace treaties. No. Never mind. That's not a good example. Give me just a second here. See, this is a good example of when it would be nice to have music playing when I'm like booping on my phone here. Okay, God damn it, it is the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles, dear friends, is a perfect example of why diplomacy is not as good of a deterrent as strength, as military strength. Government couldn't. Well, yeah, this is true Anon, and this is also why everybody should have live chat on so they can see Anon's cutting edge and very accurate commentary. Unfortunately, yeah, the best way to ensure peace is through military strength. You have to deter people from making military moves against you in other countries. Deterrence, is that even a word? That works far more than just diplomacy. Diplomacy is just empty words the vast majority of the time. Which is closer to your view. Racial discrimination is the main reason why many black people can't get ahead these days. Blacks who can't get ahead in this country are mostly responsible for their own condition. See, that's hard for me. I feel I'm conflicted on this. I feel that there is truth to both things. Unfortunately, there are a lot of like millennial, like SJW type people who, just like people of every other race, say that, well, I have undiagnosed anxiety or something, so I can't work. And the fact that I am not accommodated due to that is discrimination, or I am, Hispanic, and therefore A white person is always going to get a job over me, and that's why I sit at home all day complaining on Tumblr and don't have a job and am on welfare. Things like that. Like there are a lot of people who can't get ahead or believe that they can't get ahead or convince themselves that they can't get ahead to get out of having to do incredibly hard work, which is how things work in a capitalistic society. You have to work hard to earn a living and to provide for yourself and your family. You have to be dedicated. You have to put in the effort. You have to be willing to sacrifice, and a lot of people aren't. However, unfortunately, the way things are working socially, politically, economically, a lot of Black people have kind of been relegated to not knowing how to get off of welfare, or a lot of them, due to our political climate, just look at Franklin from GTA 5. He's not real, but that's an example of like a lot of people, unfortunately, in the Black community, if you can call it that, if they decide to get ahead, if they decide to be a business owner, if they decide to work really hard and, you know, stay in their relationship and be committed and try to provide for their family, they're looked at like a traitor of some sort, like a race traitor. And they are shamed and belittled and otherized, if you will, by other Blacks. And it's bizarre and horrifying, but it's something that's not exclusive to Black Americans. A lot of people, you know, if they see that someone is succeeding and they are insecure about that or jealous of that, but not willing to put in the effort to succeed themselves, they will try to demonize that person and shame that person for working hard and trying to get ahead. So it comes from both places, and I don't feel qualified to really answer this question either way. Racial discrimination is the main reason why Black people can't get ahead these days. No, I disagree with that. I think the left and the media, they're succeeding at increasing racial, my God, what's the word? Not dissent. Disharmony is also not the word. I can't think of the word. I'm so angry at myself. Racial tensions are getting worse, and unfortunately there are some ignorant white people who are, after they see enough of the terrorism caused by people like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they are ignorant enough to fall back into, well, you know, all Black people are like that. So there are people who discriminate against Black people for being Black, absolutely, in this country, and it's getting worse because the more people, it's something like tensions on. I think that's close to the word I was thinking of, but I'm not sure what it is. But like the more all of us citizens fall into believing the government's just disgusting, divisive, racist propaganda, the more we self-segregate and begin to be afraid of and look down upon people of other races, the more white people are going to become racist, you know? The more white people are going to see the people who are in Black Lives Matter or Antifa people or super radical progressives or people who say that all white people are racist, and they're far enough toward the edge to actually be pushed over it and be like, yeah, all Black people are like that, or Black people think that white people are the enemy. You know, they actually believe the crap that they see on TV and that they hear from the media. So there is racial discrimination against Black people, and the media, the progressives, are succeeding at making it worse. They're making racial tensions, unrest. I think racial unrest was the word I was thinking of. They're succeeding at making it worse because not everybody is vigilant. Not everybody knows history and how it will repeat itself. And unfortunately, not everybody cares enough to actually denounce just the disgusting narrative that you have to stick with your race and people of other races are scary or bad or lesser than you. But I don't agree that racial discrimination is the main reason why many Black people can't get ahead. I disagree with that. I think it's the government successfully gaslighting Black people into believing that the world is against them and that they're never going to succeed, so they might as well not try. I think I just think it's more of like progressives gaslighting black people, honestly, into thinking that they can't succeed than it is actual racial discrimination. I mean, I do think a lot of the left obviously does that to black people. Like, anybody who manipulates a whole race of people like that, anybody who's willing to tell a whole race of people to be afraid and that they're hated and they're not good enough and they can't succeed, like, just to get ahead, you have to be kind of racist and just a disgusting excuse for human being to try to manipulate people like that and to, like, intentionally create and increase racial unrest. So in a way, that is racial discrimination. Blacks who can't get ahead in this country are mostly responsible for their own condition. I hate this question. I don't like either of those. I'm closer to agreeing with this one, just because regardless what race you are, you have to reject the media and Hollywood and the progressives in the government telling you that you can't do it, that everyone is out to get you, that everyone is racist, that everyone will discriminate against you, that you just can't succeed, so why bother? No matter what race you are, no matter what sexuality or what gender you are, you have to reject that. So in that regard, if you choose to believe the government, in a way, you're responsible for your own condition. I don't agree with that, but I'm closer to believing that than that racial discrimination is actually why black people can't get ahead. I hate this question. I hate picking an answer because I don't like either of them at all. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Government regulation of business is necessary to protect the public interest. Government regulation of business usually does more harm than good. The problem is I agree with both of these, but I'm closer to saying that government regulation does more harm than good. The vast majority of the time it does more harm than good. OSHA regulations result in very small businesses going under a hell of a lot more than OSHA regulations protect people. Like, I had a family member who worked at a hospital for many, many years, and like the kitchen people, just like the hundreds of pounds of food that, like, freshly made food they had just made that day that they had to throw out, that, like, they would get arrested and they would get fined heavily for giving to the homeless, is sickening. OSHA is more about taking money through fines from businesses than they are about protecting anybody. Absolutely. I believe that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, unfortunately, I think government regulation does far more harm than good the vast majority of the time. And you look at things like YouTube and Twitter, and government regulation in regard to, like, antitrust, anti-monopoly laws aren't even implemented. Like, the most important and the most relevant way that government should regulate businesses isn't happening. How about this? What's the future of American healthcare? I don't know. I don't think that there's going to be enough pushback from moderates and conservatives to actually fix the healthcare system. I think just the fear-mongering and the ridiculous nonsense the left is pushing about healthcare being a right and about like competitive healthcare not helping enough people, I think that we're going to get closer and closer to socialized healthcare until basically everybody has to be on it. I mean, you look now, even though our current president repealed some aspects of Obamacare, my healthcare has still gone up recently $100 a month. I know a ton of people whose healthcare has gone up $1,000 a month because the more government encroaches on it, the more they punish and are able to not co-opt, but the more they're able to sabotage the ability of private healthcare companies to actually provide insurance for people. So, is your name Monal or Monal? Sympathetic. I'm just looking at you as 1 star because of your icon. Good night. Sorry. Tech support as Bando is going bye-bye. I just think it's going to very gradually continue to come closer and closer to being government-run socialized healthcare. That's my thought. Which sucks for someone like me who needs to see a counselor, who is on antidepressants, who has really weird issues with, like, low blood pressure. I need allergy shots because I'm allergic to everything. And there are people who have it way, way worse than me, who are going to suffer hideously due to the fact that private healthcare is being punished and the government is trying to phase it out. So I'm sorry that was a very long-winded explanation, but my answer to what's the future of American healthcare, it's going to get more and more socialized, and therefore more and more people are going to suffer because socialism doesn't work. Here's a PSA for people of color, for LGBTQ plus people, for everyone. Socialism doesn't work. No matter what politicians tell you, socialism is going to hurt you. And the people who say that they are your allies because they're in Congress or in the Senate or wherever, and they think that them having more control over your lives is going to empower you and make you safer, it's not. They are sick. They are monsters. They are the racists. They are the homophobes or transphobes. They're the ones that are preying on your fear and your desire to be accepted and have basic rights to take away your rights. And everybody, minorities of any type, and just everybody deserves better. That's just a PSA for my fellow LGBT plus, etc. members. That's a PSA for people of color. That's a PSA for anybody marginalized. If you think the government's going to solve your problems, you are sorely mistaken. And the people who are despicable and taking advantage of you and using your insecurities and what makes you marginalized against you, those are the people in the government, more than anywhere else in the world. I'm drinking my artisan water because if I drop my microphone, I will be out an extremely expensive blue snowball microphone, and I can't afford to do that. The true enemy are Californians. Most of the time I agree. A lot of my favorite people are in California, but the vast majority of the people I don't like are also in California. Socialized healthcare works, but only in small countries like the UK. See, there are things even in the UK. I hear people all the time saying, like, I have a different doctor every time, you know, so they all have a different opinion. I'm basically getting a new diagnosis every time I go to the doctor because every doctor sees things differently. You know, they're not seeing me several times, so they're not like building a relationship with me and seeing my symptoms and my health fluctuate over time. So I'm just getting run around all the time. So even in the UK, I think there are a lot of drawbacks to it, but I agree. In a country as huge as the US, socialism, especially as far as healthcare, will not work. In smaller, like teeny tiny countries, it would definitely be more successful. But so yeah, I guess I agree. And even then we have the choice between private and government. That's really important too. If you want to do the socialized healthcare, that's fine, but you should be able to opt out, and the government should not punish private companies for offering that service too. And even then it's failing because the government is incompetent. Well, there you go. I should have read all your messages before running my mouth because I have to agree with that. It sucks. It really sucks that you guys have to go through that. It really sucks. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Homosexuality should be accepted by society. Homosexuality should be discouraged by society. I think it should be accepted. I think the point we've gotten to now where everybody is virtue signaling to all their like friends by saying, I'm raising my child queer. I think that's too far. I think, I'm going to get on my soapbox again for a minute. I think the most humane and fair way to raise a child, hi little man, is raise your child as if they're straight. Do not tell them they're straight. Do not tell them that straight is the morally correct thing to do. But raise your child as if they are cisgender or not trans. Please don't walk on my keyboard, honey. Stop. Oh my god, this is a disaster. Come here. Come here, Muffin. Come here, honey. You can't do that while I'm streaming, kiddo. Raise your child as if they are straight. Raise your child as if they are not trans. When they're old enough, which is totally up to you as their parent, you bring up that those things exist, or ask them if they have any friends who have, like, you know, two moms, or if they have any friends who, you know, do you have any, if you're a little girl, do you have a friend who likes other girls instead of boys, or whatever. And you let them authentically grow into those things. And if they feel like they are attracted to the same sex, or both sexes, or if they experience gender dysphoria, make sure that they feel loved and safe enough to be able to come to you with those things, you know? But the vast majority of people are not trans. The vast majority of people are not bisexual, pansexual, or homosexual. So I think the best way to raise your child, and if I ever have kids, which I'm not planning on, what I would do is raise them, basically under the assumption that they are straight and they're not trans. But I will make it abundantly clear to them that anything that they feel that they're worried about or that they feel is, you know, out of the norm or not average or anything like that, they can come to me about. That way it is something hopefully more authentic that's coming from them, from inside, as opposed to something I'm pushing on them by confusing them by talking too much about LGBT stuff. LGBTQ plus, you know, I don't mean to exclude anybody. Obviously, their teachers, their friends, the media, whatever YouTubers they watch, everybody's going to be shoving that stuff on them, the identity politics stuff. But the best way to help your child authentically be who they are is to let them experience those things and find them within themselves, as opposed to there being more of a probability that it was something pushed on them from outsiders, you know? That's how I would do it. And if my child, I hope I never have a child who is transgender, because that's an incredibly difficult thing for a human being to have to deal with. You know, the dysphoria and figuring out who they are and feeling like your body is not yours and that you're trapped in it or it's someone else's. I can't imagine how hard that would be. And it would be hellish to have to watch your kid, you know, experience that and figure out how to navigate the world with something that unbelievably intimate as a challenge to them, you know, and as something that they feel is contradicting who they are. I obviously think it's easier to be gay or bisexual or, you know, any like non-straight sexuality than it is to be trans. And that's one of the reasons why I think LGBT is so stupid. What they're basically doing is they are trying to otherize straight people and make straight people the oppressors and the monsters, which is the most ludicrous, dishonest, just nasty, slimy, scummy thing in the world. The experiences that like gay and bisexual people, the experiences that non-straight people have are nothing compared to what trans people experience. It's a completely different category. And I think it actually does a huge injustice to trans people to lump them in as far as how they are discriminated against, as far as how they fit in or don't fit in culturally or in, you know, varieties of religion and things like that. It does trans people a huge disservice to liken what they go through and basically lump them in that regard to people who just are not straight as far as their sexuality. I think that's insane. And I think that's the way it's most transparent that the people running a lot of these social movements and political movements are disingenuous and are just looking to I guess essentially gaslight people into believing that they're victims and that they are in danger all the time and that everything that does not cater to them is marginalizing them, you know? Because there's nothing honest or genuine about lumping trans people in and saying that their experiences are the same as somebody who's gay or pan or bi. It's just surreal to me that people don't, I guess, think a little bit more critically about that and just aren't a little bit more just critical about the established social movements that are orchestrated by, you know, political figures and people who have a lot financially to gain from people believing what they have to say. Anyway, so I don't think homosexuality should be discouraged by society. I think for a lot of people, having children is one of the most joyful, fulfilling things they do. And obviously, if you are not heterosexual, it's going to be more challenging for that to happen for you. but I don't think it should be discouraged. I think people should be allowed to authentically be themselves, and they should be not only accepted but celebrated for it. So yeah, I would definitely lean more toward homosexuality should be accepted by society. Especially if conservatives think that gays are these awful, immoral, scary people. Why are you trying to tell them that they're wrong and that God hates them or wants them to come back to him? Why are you trying to encourage these people who you think are like brainwashed by the left to reproduce? You think that's a good idea? Like, you want them to make more people who are that far left? I don't know, it's weird. Okay. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Business corporations make too much profit. Huh, I wonder where I've seen this one before. Most corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit. I'm going to say that. The more profit corporations make, the more they are going to stimulate the rest of the economy. The more profit sharing they're able to do, the more bonuses they're able to give, the more hiring they're able to do, the more other businesses they're able to help and do business with, and the more resources they're able to buy from other places. So I think it's fair, you know? I just smelled the most heinous fart in the world, and that makes me think that my cat is still here. Domino, are you here, little man? I smell ya. I smell ya. Okay, well, he's not here, so that is just, oh my god. I mean, I guess I wouldn't smell much better if all I ate was like cat food, but my god, that was gnarly. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Okay, stricter environmental laws and regulations cost too many jobs and hurt the economy. You're darn tootin'. Stricter environmental laws and regulations are worth the cost. They're absolutely not. I think, like I said before, it's incredibly important to do everything we can to reverse the damage that human beings have done to the environment. The government is not the way to do that. The government does not care about the environment any more than they care about minorities, you know? They don't care. They do not care. They are the government. You people should know better than this. The government is not the way to do this at all. Again, if that was something that was more in the private sector, if companies are competing to be more environmentally friendly, and that's how they attract more of their business and their customers, they're going to figure out far more efficient and effective ways to be environmentally friendly than the government that has no competition because it's the government. Next, which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Immigrants today strengthen our country because of their hard work and talents. Immigrants today are a burden on our country because they take our jobs, housing, and health care. See, any time before the last several decades, I would have said they strengthen our country because of their hard work and talents. And to a degree, I gravitate toward that now. However, a lot of immigrants now, due to the narrative that's being pushed on them by the media and the establishment, they believe that they are owed something, you know, inherently by coming here. And the immigrants who come here through incredibly hard work, they are not rewarded. They are, you know, actually the ones who are being marginalized by our government, you know, and the left and the media. Because their efforts are being ignored, their efforts are being overlooked, and people who do not make much of an effort other than illegally coming into the country those people are being lauded as heroes, and the people who deserve to be coddled and the people who deserve to have, you know, a citizen's job, for example, or a vote that is as valid as a citizen or someone who came here legally. So I'm torn here. I hate that I am. I'm going to say immigrants strengthen our country because of their hard work and talents, because I do think many of the immigrants who come here, the vast majority of them, they're coming here to get away from far, far less humane conditions in their own countries. And because of that, a lot of them have a lot more perspective. They're a lot more grateful for the freedom they are afforded here and the ability that they have, the fact that they are empowered to actually determine how well they do. You know, the fact that they're able to work hard and actually earn a living and protect their families and be somewhere where their vote and their voice counts more than their home countries. Because of that, because many immigrants they do understand what America is about better than most Americans do, who take it for granted because we're born into it. I am going to go with this one. I do slightly gravitate toward this answer more than that they are a burden because they take our jobs. To an extent, that sounds kind of xenophobic, and I'm not about that at all. I am clogged. You're welcome, Internet. I know you liked that. Wait, we're still on immigration? That's okay. Yeah, I think this quiz, is it 2014? So yeah, this quiz is from when immigration was a little bit more talked about, like in the US and other like Western countries. I'm just taking a political typology quiz. So they're basically just deciding, are you a conservative Republican? Are you moderate or whatever? I'm just taking a couple like Pew Research quizzes to see where they group me. And the last one I took it was just going to decide, let me see. The last quiz I just took was a political party quiz, and it put me way further right than I thought I was. So I want to see if this one does the same thing. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? The cat hair comes closest to my view because it's in my eyeball. Okay. Poor people today have it easy because they can get government benefits without doing anything in return. Poor people have hard lives because government benefits don't go far enough to help them live decently. I hate this. I hate this because both of these have equal accuracy and equal relevance in different situations to different people. Some poor people have been failed, in a way by society, by their parents who should have instilled certain values in them to be able to empower themselves through hard work and self-actualization. Some of them, in a way, have been failed by the government because the government, through things like OSHA and obscenely high and invasive taxes and legislation, sabotages their ability to actually provide for themselves. A lot of people are casualties of that. If you look at all the small business owners who could never go into business or don't last because of things like OSHA, regulating them out of existence and fining them out of existence. A lot of people are casualties to how overbearing our government is. Which they fall into the poor people category in this case, in my mind. The thing here, I don't like either of these characterizations. I don't think they're fair. I don't like that poor people have hard lives because government benefits don't go far enough. That's not how that works. Anything where you are asking the government for help is not going to work. It's going to be taxing to our economy. It's going to be taxing to people's work ethic. It's going to hurt people. So while I do agree that there needs to be some amount of like welfare and programs like that to help people like get back on their feet, I detest the implication that it's the government's job to help these people and that these people are suffering because the government doesn't coddle them enough. So because of that, I'm probably going to go with this one. And obviously it's unbelievably ignorant to just say poor people have it easy today. But compared to how poor people have lived in the past and how they live in any other country in the world, poor people in this country do have it easy. I fall below the poverty line based on my job. The way it is right now, I am below the poverty line. Do you know how easy I have it? I have 2 amazing monitors. Do you know how many gigs of RAM I have? Do you have any idea how many TVs I have in my house? How many game systems? I can afford to have 4 cats that are fully vetted and are all spayed and neutered, and I have a massive cat tree for them. We go out to eat like every other week, my fiance and I. We fall below the poverty line. This is what we have. This is what poverty looks like. Danny Phantom, I don't know if that helps. This is what poverty looks like in America. So I have it a hell of a lot easier than poor people in almost any other country. And I have it a hell of a lot easier than poor people even 4 decades ago, you know? So I'm going to go with that one. So it's going to put me like way on the right again, like it did last time. I have to mirror my movements because of the webcam. Way on the right. Okay, cool. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Again, cat hair. The economic system in this country unfairly favors powerful interests. The economic system in this country is generally fair to most Americans. I hate this question, and it's weird that they reused it. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll probably say that one because the economic system still is fairly fair. It's fairly fair. If you work hard, if you are dedicated, if you truly put your mind to it and you take advantage of all the resources available to you, you can succeed. You can in this country. If I really put my mind to it, I could have my own business right now. If I chose to overcome my social anxiety, if I chose to push myself outside of my comfort zone more every day than I do, if instead of, you know, napping and playing video games and writing fan fiction and writing my short stories to have them published someday, I actually decided to go into business for myself or start applying at like really high pressure jobs in like neighboring bigger cities, I could be doing better for myself. So in that regard, I do think the economic system in this country is generally fair to most Americans. I don't think it unfairly favors powerful interests. I think the more closer to communism we come, the more socialist our country comes, the more it will unfairly favor powerful interests. But as it is, as a mostly capitalist society, capitalism is the most fair system we have. Deeply flawed, but it's the most fair to the most people. Okay, 12 out of 17. We are getting there. Why do I keep gesturing? What is this? What is that? I don't know. Ugh. Yep, cat hair everywhere, all the time. Okay, our country has made the changes needed to give blacks equal rights with whites. Our country needs to continue making changes to give blacks equal rights. No, this is disgusting to me. I'm sorry. Our government is trying to make blacks feel like victims, and it's trying to put in place a system where people feel like they are owed or owe other people reparations. But no, as far as our country, no, everybody has equal rights. Everybody. We are going back the other way. Obviously, we will never be at a place where race relations are as good as they were in like the 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, people are angry and bigoted and fearful and entitled and self-centered enough to actually fall for the rhetoric that's making us self-segregate again and be very fearful of one another. Eventually in the future, I might get back to this point because the government is doing everything what's in its within the word is within the government, the media, Hollywood, politicians primarily are doing everything within their power to victimize black people, to gaslight black people into believing that they are powerless, that they are not capable of achieving anything they put their minds to, which is disgusting. So at some point, the government is going to victimize minorities enough to where they will not have the same rights as white people, unfortunately. But for the time being, for the last several decades, our country has made the changes needed to give blacks equal rights with whites. Okay, which of the following statements comes closest to your view? It's best for the future of our country to be active in world affairs. We should pay less attention to problems overseas and concentrate on problems here at home. Actually, with that, I have to go with the isolationist policy more. I think that us meddling has done more harm than good, not only for our own country, but for other countries. If we are going to be so partisan that every 4 to 8 years, the only way to virtue signal to your constituents is to be like, well, the last guy was a Democrat, so I'm going to do the opposite of him militarily. Well, the last guy was a Republican, so I'm going to do the opposite of him militarily and get us back on track. If we're going to be that partisan and that petty, and we're going to be like schizophrenic and be like vacillating between extremes as far as our militaristic policy, geopolitically, we're doing more harm than good to everybody. So the way we are currently, we should pay less attention to problems overseas and concentrate on problems here at home. Obviously, I think it's incredibly important to be vigilant about those things. I think we owe it to our allies, like Israel, for example, to try to offer them protection and aid when we can. But things are getting to the point where they are in such disarray here at home that I think we need to narrow our field of concerns. As far as like the nation at large. How can she be poor and thick? How does she do it? Exactly. That's what being poor looks like in this country. I'm not starving to death. I am far from starving to death. And I fall below the poverty line, which is, honestly, it's not that embarrassing to say because that doesn't mean anything. You know, socially, that doesn't have negative consequences for me. As far as my quality of life, I am unbelievably lucky, you know, as far as all of the belongings I have, as far as all the opportunities I have and all the luxuries I have. I have an inexcusable number of luxuries available to me and affordable to me, and I'm below the poverty line. That's how good life is in America. Also, despite the fact that my country is 10 years plus into austerity and we got food banks open because people are so poor, the UK is creeping up the obesity charts. Yeah, that's how, you know, victimized and poor people are in, you know, semi-capitalistic, imperialist European countries. That's how much we're really all suffering. In Ireland, but be in the States with work, intrigued by your politics. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm all over the place. I most certainly am all over the place. I'm very fiercely conservative on a lot of issues, but I'm fairly far left on a lot of others, and I don't know. I think I would probably identify as a conservative, even if like things hadn't been pushed the way they have, but just because of the way we are politically and it being so, you're demonized for being conservative anymore. You know, doesn't matter if you're you know, gay and Mexican, or you're, you know, asexual and transgender and black. If you're on the right, if you believe in less government and less regulation, you're a Nazi, you know. So like, because we have moved so far to the left, because the only thing acceptable anymore is being super progressive, I look more conservative than I am. I'd probably be very, very middle of the road, almost kind of like leftist libertarian, if we were more fair and objective in our country and level-headed. But it's just become this race to see how far, you know, how extreme progressive you can get. You know, nobody, no matter how progressive you are, is progressive enough, and it's this constant scramble as far as politicians and, you know, just like millennial Tumblr kids and people in the media and everybody, you know. Everybody's just scrambling to virtue signal and show that they are progressive enough not to be demonized and ousted, you know, by the lynch mob. So I don't know. Yeah, as far as my politics, I would probably call myself conservative either way, but I've become more conservative by actually being consistent in my views, while everyone else is pushing so far to the left. I have to mirror things because of the webcam. And are you in the States with work? Am I reading that correctly? I know it's a phrase that's been dry humped to death, but the virtue signaling in U.S. politics the past 2 years is crazy. It is, and it's so transparent and pathetic. Please don't unplug my mic. For God's sake, Domino, please. This is a disaster. Come here. Back up. Come here. My microphone. Oh, God. Please don't unhook my mic. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Everything's okay for the time being. I agree. The virtue signaling, it's it's pathetic. It's so obvious what people are doing. It's like, I don't know. I just don't understand how people can be so foolish and short-sighted that they actually fall for this just reprehensible garbage bullshit that's being shoved down their throats, as far as, you know, just leftist politicians pretending they actually give a crap about racial minorities and anybody else who's marginalized. The fact that anybody falls for that crap it's infuriating to me, you know? As a bisexual woman who in any other country would not have the rights that I have here, it's infuriating to me that people don't realize how good we've got it, and we are just so fearful and tribalistic that we don't see when people are so transparently just using us to get our votes. It's beyond frustrating to me. Okay, we're almost done. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Most people who want to get ahead and make it can if they're willing to work hard. Hard work and determination are no guarantee of success for most people. I'm sorry, I'm very idealistic, but I believe that you can get ahead if you're willing to work hard. I truly believe that. It may take years, but you can do it. You can do it. And I see the idea that it's no guarantee of success and that therefore you might as well not try and just get on welfare. I view that as government, just sick, racist propaganda. That's what that reeks of to me. All right, which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Oh God, he's coming back. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's just breaking my printer. This is like the witching hour. Everybody's like crazy. Please don't unhook my mic. Please, for the love of God, go somewhere else, honey. Here, come around. Come around this way. Please. It's not good having an incredibly rowdy 7-month-old cat that's very large. Please don't unhook my mic. I don't want to have to shut the stream down and shut OBS down and restart. Hi, Kenny. How are you? Yes, knock my makeup on the floor. Anything's better than unhooking the mic midstream. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, he's gone. I'll next be over in May. I love it. People are great and amazing country, but the politics thing is beyond belief. Your point on the narrative of making black people feel oppressed is 100% totally right. It is. And, ironically, I genuinely believe that I care more about racial equality and fairness than most of these like virtue signaling, like super progressive, like they them like Tumblr millennials. I genuinely do. It makes me absolutely furious that the left is so willing to tell black people that they can't achieve anything that they want and that they're worthless and that they need the government to save them. It's vile. It's absolutely vile, and it makes me sick. And I get real heated real fast, don't I? I was talking to two of my best friends. My fiance and I went out with two of my best friends yesterday, and most of my friends, I met most of the friends I have now through Anime Club in college. I met my fiance through Anime Club, and obviously most of the people who like anime are more leftist. I have a lot of friends who are extremely far left, you know? I have a friend who goes mostly by like they, them pronouns online. And my friends love me and I love them fiercely. You know, it's not impossible for people with different political views to be kind and respectful to one another and actually love and uplift one another. It's not impossible. And it's just so sad that we're to the point now where if you would rather be friends with someone in hopes that you can change their mind and change their heart by showing them your perspective, it's so sad that we've come to the point where that makes you evil, where even associating with anybody moderate or conservative means that you too by proxy are like a neo-Nazi, as opposed to it being acceptable to be civil and respectful of one another in the hopes that we can find common ground or even convert people to our views, or if you're on the left, for example. It's just so sad that we're to that point, you know? Like a lot of the people who I'm friends with now, as divisive as things are now, especially like internet progressive culture, a lot of them, their friends would vilify them for being friends with me. You know, me, someone who falls into several different like minority groups, because I don't think that the government is like mommy and is going to solve all our problems, and I don't trust the government. It's just surreal. It's absolutely surreal how politicized everything has become. It's just so sad, you know. Um, I'm doing okay, Kenny. I'm doing pretty good actually. I'm not into the time change thing at all, but I'm okay. Um, okay. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? This is a nice font. This isn't just Times New Roman, right? This is a little prettier than Times New Roman. The obstacles that once made it harder for women than men to get ahead are now largely gone. Are you shitting me? Women have far more rights than men now. Far more. Companies will hire a woman who has an IQ of 4 and is terrified of computers and doesn't even know what they do over a qualified man now because it makes them look better, because they're going to get more government funding, less government scrutiny, and because in the public eye, they're going to be looked at more fondly, you know? There are still significant obstacles that make it harder for women to get ahead than men. Absolutely not. No, it has swung so far the other way. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? In foreign policy, the U.S. should take into account the interests of its allies, even if it means making compromises with them. In foreign policy, the U.S. should follow its own national interests, even when its allies strongly disagree. I've gone isolationist with a couple of these before, but I'm actually going to go with this one. I think we need to take into account what our allies do. I think the position that we have gotten ourselves in now, we rely on our allies for a lot, and they rely on us for a lot. And because we do have our nose in so much like geopolitical international business, we cannot afford to alienate our allies, you know, overseas and just around the world. We need our allies, you know. So yeah, I would definitely say that if the compromises are reasonable, obviously, and they don't like completely fly in the face of what's good for our country, I do think we need to make some compromises. Okay, and finally, in politics today, do you consider yourself a Republican, Democrat, or Independent? Well, this is going to count for like literally nothing on the quiz because it's already pigeonholed me, I'm sure. But I consider myself an independent. I consider myself a constitutionalist. Because I'm not naive enough to believe that either Democrats or Republicans stand for anything. Having a two-party system just alienates us from one another. Being bipartisan is bipartisan? Does that mean both parties? I don't want to misuse the word, so I'm not going to do it. But this divisive alienation of one another that comes from identifying as a Democrat or a Republican is absurd, and I just don't understand how people don't see through it. You know, I don't understand taking pride in being one or the other. I think that you need to look at each issue individually. I think that's like the bare minimum of what we need to do in order to have personal responsibility and integrity. You need to look at issues individually. If I agree with Democrats more than Republicans on something, I'm going to say so. You know, I've sent several emails to Sherrod Brown, thanking him for opposing, you know, testing on animals and stuff in the government. And I've gotten emails back from him. They're probably, you know, like cut and paste stuff where they just figure out what gender you are and they like plop your name and the given issue you're talking to them about into the email thanking you. But I think that like not associating with or not considering endorsing people just because you stick with your one party is psychotic. And I think it's horrible. And if you're like dumb enough and naive enough to believe that like all Republicans are evil or all Democrats are evil, you should not be voting. You shouldn't even have access to news channels because you're only going to hurt yourself by buying into all the nonsense that's being shoved down our throats. You of all people are the most vulnerable and the most at risk. So, not to be super opinionated or anything, but I'm going independent here. As of today, do you lean more to the Republican or Democratic Party? Clearly Republican, as far as like who I vote for and which politicians I think at least are willing to espouse the talking points that resonate with me, whether they believe in them or not. I'm not naive enough to think they all necessarily do believe those things sincerely, but Republican in that regard. Domino is like trying to chew a branch off of my Christmas tree. He's such a boy. He's such a boy. Such a little boy. He's so destructive. I was neutral, but I've noticed from the outside looking in, the left are so clever, shamelessly obvious, in how they manipulate people, though it's people who are drooling for some attention. Yeah, it's so obvious. It's just so blatantly obvious. You know, even Nancy Pelosi basically saying, oh, well, she's just a brown immigrant woman. She's just a young little brown immigrant woman. So she doesn't know that she was saying horrifically racist things. Can you imagine a Republican belittling, a fellow representative by saying, oh, well, they're just a very young brown immigrant. They don't know what they're talking about. Don't take them seriously. Don't take offense to that. Can you imagine if anybody but Nancy Pelosi said something that disgusting and condescending and bigoted about someone who was, like, elected into office? Can you... Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. It's surreal. Yeah, weird how they ask you that, then when you answer, they kind of ask you again. Yeah, it's interesting. They're like, well, independents don't really count, so can you like try the question again, but we'll give you the right answers and take out the one that you shouldn't have picked in the first place? Domino! He just got in my, like, Ulta bag and took my receipt out, and he's taking it away. I don't know, man. Little boys are exhausting. I love that cat more than anything. He is my best little buddy. He is so clingy and so lovey. He's such a mama's boy, but he is exhausting. Okay, let's see. What do you guys think is going to happen? The one who I find is there for the wrong reasons just now is the AOC lady. Yeah, I know. People voted for her because she's a brown woman, you know? You can see from the Green New Deal that she's never passed a high school social studies class. She's completely incompetent. But people voted her in because they saw what they wanted to see in her. It had nothing to do with policies and stances. People just wanted the like most obvious way. You know how like people make fun of conservatives for saying, well, I can't be racist. I'm friends with black people. Or I can't be racist. I'm married to a black person. It's like, well, I can't be racist or sexist. I voted for a brown woman. Like, it's so transparently obvious what's going on. And she's just so... She's completely incompetent. You know, she's sweet, I think, but she's just totally incompetent. And competence, experience, understanding anything about economics or legislation clearly has no bearing on whether or not you vote for somebody, at least not in New York. As you can see from the fact that their economy is destroyed. When I was wee little, my dream was to live in New York City. Mostly because the Pokemon Center was there. Now it's just a Nintendo store. But then I actually got to stay in New York City, like right off of Times Square one time for a couple days. And it was everything I imagined it would be. My whole life I've wanted, there's no way I could ever afford it. But I would love to live in New York City. Just the city life is amazing to me. I'm so drawn to that. I feel like I would flourish there. But yeah, no. You would find like little pieces of me maybe if people figured out who I was and where I lived. If I espoused these political beliefs living in New York now, there's no way. It's insane there right now. War Panther's after your finances. I don't know. He's after anything and everything that he can gnaw on to feel good, I think. New York is fun. Yeah, it's fun to laugh at from far away, or maybe to vacation in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, your best fit is core conservatives, along with 13% of the public. Read more in the full report. I might look at this later. Dig deeper and see how the political typology groups compare. I might do that later too, but we've been streaming for almost 2 hours now. So, solid liberals, opportunity Democrats, disaffected Democrats, devout and diverse, new era enterprisers, market skeptic Republicans, country first conservatives, core conservatives, bystanders. So bystanders don't even look like they count, right? This overwhelmingly Republican group holds conservative attitudes across a wide range of issues, especially in their support for smaller government. This one I like. I like the answers of this one a little more, I think. Core conservatives are deeply skeptical of the societal safety net and favor lower tax rates on corporations and high-income individuals. No shit. You shouldn't be punished for achieving. Everyone should aspire to those things and, admire those people. Also, it hurts literally everybody if you tax all of the companies and the rich people to death. Everybody. They're just going to go somewhere where they're taxed less, and they're going to spend their money in those places instead of, on those of us who work like minimum wage jobs, for example. While they are divided on whether immigrants do more to strengthen or burden the country, core conservatives offer far more positive views of immigrants than do country-first conservatives. Well, so then why are we here when country-first conservatives are there, I wonder? Core conservatives are relatively upbeat about national conditions. I am very doom and gloom, but I still strongly believe in the core principles and the founding principles of this country. And a majority says that the U.S. or that the United States stands above all other nations in the world. Morally, I would say that as far as our moral foundations, yes. But as far as our current stances and our current presence in the world, I don't know about that. You answered the economic system in this country is generally fair to most Americans. So 75% of people in this group did, I take it? Oh, core conservatives versus general public. Oh, okay, I see. You answered most corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit. Okay, those are economics. Foreign policy. You answered we should pay less attention to problems overseas and concentrate on problems here at home. I'm dying. I'm so sorry. I can't talk this long. I die. Yeah. 71% of core conservatives versus 30% of the general public? Yeah. The best way to ensure peace is through military strength. Absolutely. I think more people should believe this, and the fact that people don't understand that is worrisome to me. In foreign policy, the U.S. should take into account the interests of its allies. 30% of core conservatives believe that. Interesting. Government is almost always wasteful and inefficient. No shit. This is not a partisan issue. This is just fact that everybody should know. Government regulation of businesses usually does more harm than good. Absolutely. Social safety net. Poor people have it easy today. See, I hate that because that's not true. They have it easier today because they can get government benefits without doing anything in return. The government today can't afford to do much more to help the needy. That's true. I'm sorry. The thing is, I don't agree with that, but I agreed with that more than the other option. I'm a head out. Peace and prosperity to you all. You too, Anon. Take care. Thank you so much for showing up. The government can do more to help the poor and needy if they stopped spending billions of dollars on wasteful things. Who was it? What politician's wife lost almost, what was it? Like 900, was it 90 or $900 million? That kind of shit is unacceptable. That's why we don't have more money to dedicate to social safety net programs, because the government is bloated and incompetent and full of greedy people who know that the more power you give to the government, they have to go into government to get away with this crap. You know, the only difference that socialism creates is the 1% becomes the 0.0001%. And there's just a bigger disparity between all of us and those people. And those people, instead of being private corporations or whatever, they are all government. They go to the government because that's where they can get away with robbing everybody else blind. That's the only difference with socialism and further left governance. That's what it does. Sorry, you guys need to learn that. And unfortunately, a bunch of us are going to be impoverished and lose all of our rights before people figure that out, because people are just, they're self-centered, they're egotistical. They're like, well, yeah, socialism never works, but because it's us, because it's my generation, we're going to do it right. No, you imbecile. Your ego is going to ruin the lives of more marginalized people than you could ever even imagine. I'm angry. Okay, whoo. I'm reading chat again. So what's the end game with this? As an American, do you see any way this will end and a certain someone will get a clear run to do anything in his time in office? No, I don't think it will end. I mean, obviously things vacillate. You know things are bad when I am less optimistic than Glenn Beck about the future of our country. But around 10 years ago, I'm trying to think, I'm 26. Around 10 years ago, probably if not a little longer, I came to the conclusion that I don't think our country comes back from this. I do not think that we do. I think it's too late. I think we've been pushed too far to the left. Like, not real, decent, good people left. Like, progressive psychosis left. Once we've gone this far, I don't think we can come back from it. My thought, the reason why I do what I do here with this channel is because that doesn't mean the right thing to do isn't to try. Even if it's totally in vain, I have to try because I know better. Obviously, I've got a ton to learn. I'm not trying to say that I'm the ultimate authority on anything. I'm trying to humble myself more than that because I know I'm not right on all political or social or whatever issues. But as somebody who knows how good we have it in America, even though it's too late to stop it, we can slow it. And I think that people who are awake, people who understand what the government is doing, how they're victimizing people and capitalizing on our fear and anger and breeding bigotry and hatred where it doesn't exist. When you realize that, when you're awake, it is your duty. You can't be plugged back into the Matrix. You have to fight back. You have to say something. You have to do everything within your power to try to open people's eyes. Even if you can't, I have to try. The right thing to do is to try. I will not be able to sleep at night if I don't try and fight for what we have in this country and how good we have it. I'm gonna get choked up. I'm sorry. So, right. I don't think there's any coming back from it. I think it's too late. But I think if constitutionalists fight tooth and nail with everything we have, to do the right thing, I think we can slow the descent of America. I think we can keep this country from completely dying. And it'll go on, but it'll be no even figment of what we were at our founding will exist anymore. And that's the death of America. I think the death of America is close, but I think we can slow it. We as in, I don't know, constitutionalists, people who think that both sides of the aisle need to come together and have compassion for one another. Those people who were like awake, people who get it. And I'm not saying that I get everything. Obviously, I've got a ton to learn, but we can slow the decay of this nation. That's what I think. I don't see that you're angry. I just see someone passionate about the political situation in her country. Yes, I was thinking that too. There may be no way back. Things will be different here on in. I agree. And I think the fact that America rose to power, like, as one of the youngest nations to become an economic superpower, I think we're like one of those stars that just burns up in like a million years while other stars go on infinitely longer, you know? I just think that how quickly, due to our founding principles and our small government principles that we were founded upon, and due to being founded upon the idea that you can do anything and that it is miraculous and should be celebrated that you can do anything if you try hard enough, that's why we rose to economic superpower status so fast. And just because of that speed, you know, it's not something that can be caught a hold of and anchored and slowed down. And I think that's why we're going to decline, while other economic superpowers are probably going to go on. Yes, some of them are declining due to socialism like the UK, but it's a much slower decline and it's a much longer lifespan. America's going to die out in the next 100 years, if not a lot sooner. I hope I don't live to see it, but I probably will. You know? Okay, cool. Okay. Ideological placement, distribution of core conservatives in the overall public on a 10-item scale of political values. Learn more about the scale. It's squirgly. It looks like an... Iceberg. Okay. Social values, race, and immigration. Homosexuality should be accepted. Yeah. So half and half of people in my little typography. Interesting. The obstacles that once made it harder for women than men to get ahead are now largely gone. Absolutely, they are. Have you not seen how many companies pander to women because they know they'll get millions more dollars from angry feminists for pretending to care about women? Have you not seen how many companies do that? I'm really sad because I like Dove. Dove has always been one of those companies that tries to speak to the inner beauty of all women and kind of denouncing conventional, unrealistic, like unattainable beauty standards and stuff like that. And I love that. Not to mention that my skin is so sensitive that anything but Dove soap for sensitive skin, bar soap, makes me like burn all over my body excruciatingly. It's the only thing sensitive enough that I can wash my face with without it like peeling and burning horribly. But even Dove now, like, they're pandering, they're demonizing men, they're like doing this really phony, blatantly pandering empowerment narrative, and it's just so gross and condescending, you know? Like, Dove used to do these commercials. They did a commercial where they had several women sit in a room with a sketch artist, and they described themselves to that sketch artist. And they had that sketch artist draw them and then show that picture to them. And women realized how, like, looking at a picture of themselves versus how they thought of themselves and described themselves to other people, it made these women realize how poorly they think of themselves and how they so exaggerate and fixate on and obsess over flaws that they perceive that other people don't even see. And that when they compare that grotesque caricature of what they see in themselves to how they actually are, they realize how much more beautiful they are than just the physical imperfections that they obsess over and think define them. Things like that. Like, Dove used to make these like 30-minute films that would just showcase how little women think of themselves. It was heartfelt, you know, and even if obviously there are people behind it who are just like, yeah, we're going to get millions of dollars from this, they made these like heartbreakingly poignant films, and they did these experiments that really made you think about how women think about themselves, and it made them realize how silly it is to look down on yourself so much, and it kind of challenged women to actually treat themselves with the love and the care and the gentleness that they treat other women, or maybe their children, or maybe their significant other with, and stuff like that. And I mean, most companies are doing it now, but it's really sad to see Dove doing it too. It's gone from something beautiful and poignant that's like actual feminism to just this gross, just so obvious, transparent pandering. You know, we're empowered. All women are empowered. Men are gross. Men need to do better. Girls are inherently just perfect and amazing, you know, like it's just so sad, you know. And I'm like, well, when it gets down to it, I still have to use your soap because everything else burns my skin off of my body. But, you know, I used to take pride in like buying Dove shampoo and Dove soap and Dove deodorant because like that was one of the few companies that like really authentically cared about these issues instead of just this sick pandering that these corporations do now. Out there question. I watched Rogan's podcast with Alex Jones. Do you think there's any truth in the popular belief that there are deeper government, do you mean governments in the US, such as NASA and the CIA? I'm uninformed. You're gonna have to maybe rephrase that. I'm not sure what you're asking. Maybe there was a typo there, or I'm just not reading it properly. I have not watched the Alex Jones, Joe Rogan podcast yet. I'm dying to, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Do you think there's any truth in the popular belief that there are deeper governments, do you mean? in the US, such as NASA and the CIA? I don't know. I apologize. Can you like explain that a different way? Maybe you left out a word or something. And if I had watched the podcast already, I would probably know what you're getting at, but I don't at the moment. Yeah, you answered, our country's made the changes needed to give blacks equal rights with whites. Most core conservatives believe that. Over 35% of the general public. That's really sad. Obviously, I think I'm right, and everybody who believes other things than I do think they're right as well. But it's really sad that only 35% of people think that black people have equal rights to white people in this country. That's really, really sad. I freaking detest this. This is such a gross thing, and I hate that I had to pick that over the other option. That blacks who can't get ahead are mostly responsible for their condition. It makes me angry that has to be the thing I align with more. Immigrants today strengthen our country because of their hard work. So a lot of the general populace believes that. Core conservatives don't tend to. Stricter environmental laws and regulations cost too many jobs and hurt the economy. That should be bipartisan. That should be something that everybody agrees on. I think more people should comprehend that. That just goes to show you how effective fear is as a tactic in our country. Most people would laugh in your face if you tried to explain to them that the U.S. is the most environmentally friendly country of any of the economic superpowers. You answered, most people who want to get ahead can, if they're willing to work hard. It surprises me that that's as high as it is. That's very interesting. I don't know. What do you think, you guys? Do you want to look at some of these? I might leave this open and look at it later. But I'm not going to do it right now. I did link to just a Pew Research Center quizzes here. So if you guys want to see those, you can look in the description of my stream. And you can take this one as well. And read the full report, but I'm not going to go over the whole thing on stream since we've been here for what, like an hour already in 10 minutes. He had put forward a theory that he and many others had proof of an underlying government, in the U.S. that was two sections, NASA and CIA, that the White House is a front for them to occupy public. I'd never heard of that, but it did make me think. That's fascinating. Conspiracy theories actually really resonate with me, not because I'm gullible necessarily, but because I'm not... I think that a lot of things that are just written off as crazy in conspiracy theories, one, a lot of the time it's because people would stand to lose a lot if those things were actually considered by, the public as opposed to being laughed at and written off. And I also think that it's... Please don't chew on my power cord and unplug my computer. Hey, little man, come here. Hey, come out of there, Squirt. You don't need to be back there. You've got the whole basement to play in. You've got the whole house to play in. You don't need to be playing with my power cord. I just think that when you consider, most people don't trust the government, right? Whether it's just because it's the Trump administration currently, or just because you don't trust it. Most people think the government is full of crap. Most people don't trust the entirety of the media. So why wouldn't we believe that there's a ton going on that the government can't afford for us to know about, that the media can't afford for us to know about? We laughed at stuff like Pizzagate, but you look at Harvey Weinstein and the fact that many high-profile actors and actresses groomed children and knew that they had to go through him to get anywhere in Hollywood. Like, the proof that a lot of these things, or some sort of iteration of them, exists is often in front of our faces, but we just ignore it because we're so easily distracted by whatever the hot button issue is of the day that the media, who is, being paid by the establishment, whatever they dictate that issue is. So that's interesting. proof of an underlying government that was in two sections, NASA and CIA, that the White House is a front for them to occupy public. That's really interesting. I will watch that. One of the problems with Alex Jones is that he articulates things in such a psychotic way that he has made himself a meme, like the turning the frogs gay thing. But when you look at all of the vitamins and minerals that are put in the water, they do actually cause frogs to display hermaphroditic properties, you know? As opposed to there being obvious sexual dimorphism, they actually are changing biologically based on the minerals and the substances they're being flooded with based on what we're putting in the water. So Alex Jones, unfortunately, the things that he brings up are laughed at because he expresses them in the literal worst way possible. But part of me almost thinks that he does those things because he knows that over-the-top persona and turning things into memes, if those things were not memes, people would never talk about them. Because a lot of people would stand to lose a lot if a lot of the issues he talks about ever were logically, candidly discussed, you know, in the open. So by turning things into memes, which is a lot of the reason why super leftist governments are trying to demonize memes, the thing about them is, yes, they're a joke, but there's kind of an underlying respect for and admiration for memes in internet culture, you know? Which is why they are such a threat to the progressive left. And if these things were not as outrageous as they are in their presentation, like they're turning the frogs gay, those things would never get out into the mainstream ever. People know that line and laugh about that line who've never heard of Alex Jones. And in that way, in this incredibly stealthy way, he has gotten these issues that nobody else would ever even look at to become like everyday, everybody knows about them things. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword, and part of me thinks that just his super over-the-top persona is an incredibly intelligent, incredibly sneaky and strategic way to get these things elevated to be very high profile and, you know, highly discussed issues. I've never known how to take Jones and was expecting a shit show, but he made me chow down some humble pie, was extremely knowledgeable and floored many of Rogan's arguments with actual proof, mind opened. In a psychotic way, lol, he definitely does. Yeah, I love the shit out of Alex Jones. He's my spirit animal. I love him so much. He's beautiful. I love him like more than I love like the Flex Seal guy. I think I love Alex Jones more than I love voiceover Pete, actually. That's a lot. I'll watch that, though. I'll watch that. I've been meaning to, and some days I'm actually in the office alone. I work in a very small satellite office for my company, so I might be able to, like, stick my headphones in and watch some of that tomorrow if I get any alone time in the office and get everything else done. This was very interesting. I don't know what to think. I might do another quiz, but we've been here for ages now. Cybersecurity knowledge quiz. I wish it showed you how many questions are on these. Our three question quiz. Question quiz. I'm struggling. I wish it would show you like each of these, you know, like how many questions are in each of them, so I could take the shortest one just to have one more thing to like round this stream out with. How do your views of gender compare with those of other Americans? What do you know about the U.S. government? That would be embarrassing. I need to brush up on my knowledge for sure. Religious typology quiz. How well can you tell factual from opinion statements? I'm going to take some of these quizzes actually in another in another stream, maybe, like later this week. So I don't know if any of you guys will be able to catch it, but if you want, watch it later. I don't know if you guys have been here before, but yeah, I don't care at all. Like, if there's another stream you are more interested in watching, please don't be offended if you don't watch mine. Like, my favorite thing is when I've got streams to watch later. I love, like, when I have downtime when I'm doing chores or something, or I'm just doing paperwork at work, having a stream to, like, watch the next day. So if you guys do catch my future streams, you know, don't feel bad about not showing up, like, right when they're happening. But I do think later this week I'll probably take some more of these quizzes. I need to sit in the center. I'm sitting off on the side. Okay, sorry. I don't know. I might take one more. I'm not sure. Kittens, you're not mauling each other, right? Are you being good? Are you dying? Please don't die. I love you. Okay. If I hear any more wrestling, I'll go get them, but I think they're being good. Let's just try and do... Where'd it go? This one. Let's do this one real quick. How do your views on gender compare with those of other Americans? Let's do it. Pew Research Center recently released a series of reports looking at Americans' views on the state of gender equality, gender differences, and gender identity, all based on a nationally representative survey of 4,573 U.S. adults conducted in August and September 2017, so pretty recent. Across a wide range of opinions. Nope. Try again. Across a wide range of questions, opinions on these issues often divide along gender and party lines, the survey found. To find out how your views on gender and gender equality stack up against those of the American public, take our quiz below. Okay. Hey, you're not murdering each other, right? Oh, thank God. Okay. Little girl has a mousey. I mentioned it earlier, but I have 4 cats. The 2 older ones are almost 2 years old, and they're sisters. The 2 younger ones are almost 7 months old, and they're brother and sister. They got spayed and neutered on Friday. Like, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. So the little girl's, like, wrestling around with her cone on, and she gets her stitches out Thursday. So we're almost done. But, like, the worst thing in the world would be for her to, like, get her like, sutures pulled out by roughhousing with the other cats, or to get an infection from their little germy feet, beating each other up. I'm supposed to be babysitting her, but she babysits herself pretty well, so she's okay. I'm just... My attentions are torn here. So, let's go ahead and try this. Blue. Gender equality. When it comes to giving women equal rights with men, do you think the country has gone too far, has not gone far enough, or has been about right? I'll say has been about right. Yeah. About 4 in 10 Americans agree with you. While there is a gender gap on the issue, the partisan gap is even wider. Republicans are about twice as likely as Democrats to say things are about right. That's interesting. This is too small. I'm going to zoom in because my eyeballs don't work very well, and these are like my backup contacts from like 10th grade. So I need to get some new ones because I ran out of all the like current prescription months ago. So my little eyeballs needs to be bigger to see it. So has gone too far. Has not gone far enough. 69. I'm a child. I'm sorry. Has been about right. Interesting. Very interesting. All things considered, who do you think has it easy in our country these days? Women, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. All men are sexist. All men, it is inherent in men to be rapists. You have to teach your little boy not to rape. That is how disgusting and sexist our country has become. Women have it a hell of a lot easier just because of the sick sexist garbage that the media is telling people is acceptable. Just the idea that men are inherently monsters is vile. It's just absolutely vile that sexism has gone like so far back the other way. I can't believe it, honestly. Only about 1 in 10 Americans agree with you, while relatively small shares across groups say women have it easier. Men and Republicans are more likely to share your view. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Men are the ones who are treated like shit most of the time and are told that they need to suck it up because they're nasty little wastes of space for protesting that, hey, you know, if you want to tell us that we're inherently rapists, do you want to take some of these like waste management jobs? Do you want to take some of these incredibly deadly jobs on oil rigs and construction jobs and electrician jobs? No, you don't? Oh, okay. I'm sexist for even asking. I'm sorry. Interesting. Have you ever personally experienced discrimination or been treated unfairly because of your gender or not? I don't think so at all. I have been sexually harassed, and I want to actually like make a video about that at some point, just some of my personal experiences. Two of the times I've been sexually harassed were ongoing incidents at two of the different jobs I've had in the past. They were both people who were very intellectually impaired. So they were interesting situations in that regard because I didn't feel like I couldn't speak up because they were men and they were going to be sided with. I was afraid to speak up because I thought I would be attacked for discriminating against someone who was mentally challenged. But experienced discrimination or treated unfairly because of my gender? No. Unless it was behind the scenes and I didn't get a job because I was a female, but absolutely not. In my knowledge, no, never. Workplace. Do you think men and women are basically similar or basically different when it comes to the things they are good at in the workplace? I would say they're different. Obviously not everyone, but women tend to have, just due to biology and evolution, women tend to have similar strengths. And men tend to have similar strengths, literally, in men's case. That doesn't mean everybody. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't have an equal shot at trying at either role. That doesn't mean that one woman might beat out 10 men at something that men on average excel at over women. But on average, yeah. You are in the minority, but 37% of Americans agree with you. Republicans are more likely than Democrats to share your view that men and women are basically different in the things they are good at in the workplace. Interesting. Okay. Thinking about how you see yourself in general, would you describe yourself as, for women, very womanly or feminine, somewhat womanly or feminine, not too or not at all womanly or feminine? I'm very womanly in my fat distribution. My waist is tiny, even though I am obese. Actually, like I'm medically obese because everything went like up or like down. I don't know how else to say it more tactfully. However, I can outbelch almost anyone I have ever met. I have the sense of humor and the maturity of a 12-year-old boy. And I don't know. I like fighting games. So I'm not sure. Just somewhat womanly. Because in some ways I think I'm very feminine. In other ways I'm not. Okay, 54% of women describe themselves as somewhat feminine. Similar shares of Republican and Democratic women describe themselves this way. Interesting. Very womanly or feminine. More Republicans, but not by much. Not too or not at all womanly or feminine. The vast minority, but more Democratic women than Republican. Interesting. Nature versus nurture. To the extent that there are differences between men and women when it comes to how they express their feelings, would you say these differences are mostly based on biological differences between men and women, or mostly based on different expectations society has? Absolutely societal expectations. Obviously, there is some biological difference in how men and women express themselves, but the vast majority of it is the rigid gender roles that we are pushed into. The vast majority. About 6 in 10 Americans who say there are gender differences in this area agree with you. Women and Democrats are more likely than men and Republicans to point to societal expectations. Really? Interesting. Huh. Do you think it is a good thing or a bad thing for parents of young boys to encourage them to play with toys or participate in activities that are typically associated with girls? Playing with toys? Oh, playing with toys that are associated with girls. I was like, how is playing with toys a bad, like a girly thing? What? Hatch said, Michelle, do you listen to Imagine Dragons? Yeah, I haven't listened to any of their new stuff, but they're probably one of my favorite bands. Just because some of their older stuff, I like. Is it just called America? They're like low key, like sneakily patriotic song. I love that song. I like Tiptoe. Obviously, I love Radioactive. I love Monster. I love, is it called Friction? I think. I don't listen to Imagine Dragons a lot, but I love them. Yeah, Hatch. I wondered if you could oh, I hate you. I hate you, Michael. I should ban you from the chat for that. You're a horrible human being. I hate you so much. I hate you. Okay, moving right along. Do you think it is a good thing or a bad thing for parents of young boys to encourage them to play with toys or participate? I think it's a good thing. I don't think it should matter. If you encourage your kid to try something and they don't like it, then so be it. You know, as long as you're not pushing them, as long as you're not like putting them in a dress because you want them to understand like a queer experience or something. Most Americans agree with you, but there are wide gender and partisan gaps on the issue. Women and Democrats are more likely than men and Republicans to share your view. Interesting. I just think rigid gender roles are harmful. I think due to biology, I think boys are going to tend to gravitate toward more like boyish, more conventionally boyish activities. I think girls are going to gravitate toward more conventionally feminine toys and activities. But I don't think encouraging them to try something that occupies either like a gender stereotype is harmful whatsoever, as long as you're not pushing them to do something that they don't gravitate toward, you know? When it comes to raising girls, would you say there is too much emphasis or too little emphasis these days on encouraging girls to be leaders, or is it about right? I'd say it's about right. I think there's some people, there's like a huge push. Some people would say there's too much, and some people would say there's too little. But I think because women in leadership roles used to be demonized or kind of mocked and belittled, I think there's been a huge push to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore and that girls are not robbed of that opportunity, to the point where, like, if people who are super qualified in STEM fields are men, we're to the point now where the one woman who is less qualified is going to get that, like, sponsorship or that job in order to make sure that that company looks like they're being diverse enough, you know? So there's been a lot on either side. There's been an unfair advantage given to women at times, but in the past there was a huge disadvantage to them. So about 4 in 10 Americans agree with you. There is a double-digit gap in the share of Republicans and Democrats saying there is the right amount of emphasis on encouraging girls to be leaders. So too little emphasis. Far more Democrats say that. About right. Almost half of Republicans say about right. Democrats only 27%. Okay. Which statement comes closer to your views, even if neither is exactly right? Whether someone is a man or a woman is determined by the sex they were assigned at birth. You're not assigned a sex at birth. When you are a fetus, you develop a sex. Several weeks into your formation. No one assigns you a sex. Biology, nature assigns you a sex. It's not assigned. It is inherent. It is biological. Any single cell in your body, unless you experience chimerism and were patched together that way in the womb, any strand of you, any little piece of you could be cut off or plucked off and will be biologically male or female. You cannot be a man or a woman. It's different from the sex you were assigned at birth, because that's not a thing. You're not assigned a sex at birth. If you are trans, that is fine. You should be validated and uplifted and supported and embraced by people for that. And your transition or your journey in learning how to fit in with society and how to love yourself and figure out how to be comfortable in the body that you were given and what modifications may help you with that, that should all be supported and endorsed by everyone. But you were biologically either male or female when you're born. And I don't understand why people are pretending that science doesn't exist and biology doesn't exist. That only serves to hurt people more when scientists and biologists and geneticists and just anybody who values facts over feelings or thinks that facts are more important than skewing reality to hurt someone to cater to their feelings in the short term. Where was I going with that? It's bizarre that people have to put their foot down on that, you know? I don't understand it, you know? All that does is serve to hurt trans people, because no transgender person doesn't know that they're biologically the sex they were born as. And it's very strange to me that that has become a thing. I mean, it's not, obviously, because being divisive is the left's entire MO right now, but I just don't understand why they are going to such efforts to traumatize and belittle trans people by putting a dialogue in place where it has to constantly be shoved in these people's face that they're not the gender that they wish they were biologically. Are my cats murdering each other? I will be right back. Please enjoy my tube TV and my pile of junk in the background while I make sure they're not dying. Kitties, are you okay? No murder, okay? No murder, man. Cam, you okay? Honey. Are you okay, little girl? You okay, honey? Alright, if we're gonna be murder mans, I'm gonna have to kick you out, okay? I know you're having a blast. I know you don't think you're being mean. But Cam has to heal, okay? You can't hurt her belly. You cannot hurt her belly, honey. I'm sorry. Are you okay, honey? Okay? Okay, little one? My girl. Can I see your belly? Is your belly okay? Is your belly okay? Okay. Okay. Here. Come here for just a minute. I want you to meet everybody. Here. I want you to meet everybody. Look. Look, Cammer. Look. Look, little girl. Hi, Nuvi. Look. Look, little funky. Fuzzy, funny gremlin. Look. Look. Okay. Okay. You can go now. Sorry I disappeared for a minute. Hi, Nuvi. You showed up when I wasn't here. Hatch, if you're still here, I hate you. Okay, bye. Oh my god, she's insane. I had to check on the little one because she and her brother were roughhousing, and she cannot get beaten up for the next couple days while she's healing. So, oh my god, she's ridiculous. She's a demon. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. Had to check on the babies. So let me look at this quick. I said whether someone is a man or a woman is determined by the sex they were assigned at birth, even though they phrase that in a way that makes it completely biologically and factually impossible. You're not assigned to sex at birth. You are assigned to sex by biology while you are developing as a fetus. You can transition, you can be trans, that's fine, but it doesn't change your biology. Nothing will change your biology. And I don't understand, I just said this, but I don't understand why the left is so insistent on pushing this ridiculous anti-science narrative. So scientists and anybody with common sense has to push back and continue to shove in trans people's faces that they are not biologically the gender that they identify as and are trying to become, you know, externally to fit who they are inside. It just serves to make trans people feel even more invalidated and victimized, which is disgusting and vile. But it's what the left is willing to do to get people reinvigorated to vote for them and to give them their rights away. You know, freaking sick. I'm sorry. Cool. Overall, roughly half of Americans agree with you. Views on this question are sharply divided along party lines. While a large majority of Republicans share your view, about a third of Democrats do so. That is bizarre and sad that it's that partisan. It really shouldn't be, because biology is biology. It doesn't invalidate you if you're a trans person. Nothing invalidates gender dysphoria or how you identify, how you feel that you are inside. but biology is biology, no matter what, you know. That doesn't have to be mutually exclusive from trans rights and accepting people for who they are. But you know, the left has to create that false dichotomy in order to create more divisiveness and hatred, and in order to make marginalized people feel even more marginalized. So they go to the government for help. Cool. That was very interesting. It didn't give me a score. It just showed me, based on each itemized issue, what people believed and how I fall based on gender and political party. Very interesting. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know what else to do, you guys. I've been here for like 2.5 hours now. This is one of the longest streams I've done without like starting to feel horribly ill or something. Normally if I talk this long or stream this long, like I feel my brain start to discriminate. You know, point proven there. I feel my brain begin to disintegrate because I just can't usually talk this long. I can't maintain a coherent train of thought this long. It's actually extremely hard for me because I'm just so disoriented most of the time. I don't know. I think that's about it. I just wanted to stop by and say hi and do a couple quizzes, just have some fun. So, oh, Hatch, are you still here? Are any of you guys noobs? Noobs. Weebs. I meant weebs. Okay, so maybe my brain is disintegrating a bit more than I realized. Are any of you weebs? Do any of you guys recognize my ring? Can you see it? Focus. 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 Do you guys like my ring? Yeah, it should be on my ring finger on my other finger. But it's not, because I'm engaged. So that that finger is already occupied. I'll show you my necklace too. It matches my ring. It matches the theme. Color-wise, it doesn't super match. Anyway, I just wanted to stop by and say hi and do a casual stream. So I thought that these would be some interesting quizzes to try. Again, they are linked in the description, so if you guys want to do them as well, you can. If you want to comment and tell me your responses, or like screenshot them and share them with me on Twitter or something, that would be cool too if you guys have Twitter. Because some of these were very interesting and very telling. Here, do you see? Look at my necklace. Focus. Camera. Yeah! There he is! Yeah! Okay, I'm normal. I'm not normal. Okay, anyway, thank you guys so much for stopping by. You got to see my kitties. What was that sound? Demons. And, yeah, if any of you have not yet and you feel so compelled, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share my stuff if you think it's noteworthy and interesting. I do have a Patreon. I might discontinue it. I'm not sure what to do with that, and stuff. And I do post, like, my other social media as well. If you're interested in following me on Instagram or Twitter or anywhere else, WordPress. I don't post there much, but I should. I'm working on some original stories, so I will post there more soon. And I'm going to post a video soon on my channel that will also direct you to the gaming channel that I'm going to do soon. And soon in my video descriptions, you'll be seeing a Twitch link as well, because I'm going to figure out if it's as easy as it seems to be to use OBS to stream on Twitch, because it's very suspicious to me that it would be as easy as it seems like it is. So I'm not sure. But anyway, you'll see some just housekeeping and updates in the near future. So for those of you who have stuck around, or those of you who were here earlier, thank you so much for watching. And thank you for leaving your opinions here as well. It's so good to connect with you guys and to get to know people and hear your opinions and get your suggestions on what to like watch and look into. because I'm kind of at a loss myself, and I don't talk politics much in my everyday life because I don't see many people outside of my daily routine. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you dearly, and I will see you again soon. Goodbye. Okay, stop streaming. Now I need to wait. The thing is, if I hit stop streaming now, it'll stop in the middle of me saying my bye-bye words instead of waiting till I'm done. So I'm gonna wait. Okay, I waved goodbye. Now I'll stop. Bye.